I've been covering this for a while, and I've been covering different aspects of it all over the place, right? And so, for example, one of the reasons why I like doing the Millionaire Morning Show more than any other show that I do on the internet, on the Anton Daniels channel, After Hours. I know we have a lot of fun on After Hours. I get to talk about, certain subjects on Anton Daniels that I don't really talk about here. But money is mine. That's mine. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was blessed with. Like, I was blessed with the understanding of how to look at things objectively and then figure out where the money is going. Now, one of the benefits of doing a Millionaire Morning Show is that we're not relegated to only cover one thing. And so I can pull sources from all over things. When I look at things on a political spectrum, I don't just look at it, from the liberal side, but I also try to source it from the conservative side. And I try to put two and two together. And then I look at other different reports. And because we have social media, I can source from different things in order to ultimately come to a conclusion or give y'all my opinion on what I think is really going on. And it's my opinion, right? And so with this whole Boeing situation, it was interesting that I was watching, and this is the type of stuff that I watch and I cover or I pay attention to on YouTube. I don't just look at the relationship stuff or all of that. That's the stuff that y'all send me. I am more interested in what's happening in corporate America, what's happening in politics, how that ultimately affects our stock portfolio, and so on and so forth, right? And so the Boeing CEO was recently grilled by U.S. senators, which is all entertainment, it's all posturing, and I think that senators and Congress members are using this in order to make it seem like they're getting tougher on the companies or CEOs and stuff. When in reality, it's just a promotional event, that a public spectacle that they know is going to go viral. And so they leverage it in order to market themselves. But I've been covering this from the whistleblower's perspective. We deep dove into the supplier, Spirit Aero Systems, that is largely the one that's building a lot of these tubes and fuselages and all of the different supplier parts. And we know that they also supply Airbus and all of these other companies. And so we're able to kind of look at all of this and then put it all together. But recently, the Boeing CEO was grilled by the U.S. Senate, and he had an opportunity to talk about a CEO pay, whether or not he should be fired, all of that. And I found it incredibly entertaining, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get it popping.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Calhoun, what is it that you get paid currently?
Senator, that's well disclosed in our proxy documents in each of the years that I've been employed.
Yeah, but what is it?
It's a big number, sir.
Well, let me help you out. It's 32.8 million this year. Does that sound right?
Yes, it does.
That's a 45% increase over last year. Does that sound right?
Yes, it does.
What is it you get paid to do exactly?
I get paid to run the Boeing company.
Yeah.
So let me break this down for those of you that are new to the channel. CEO pay, executive pay is much different than regular people pay. A lot of y'all think that they get these big checks or they get paid monthly or biweekly, and they do get paid monthly and biweekly, but their compensation, similarly to Elon Musk, is tied into incentives, bonuses, milestones, stock, stuff like that. So when I first started really getting mentored from a corporate perspective, the this guy he wasn't a CEO, but he was a high up executive at a auto supplier, and he said, Anton, the problem with most people is that they're working for a paycheck. We work for the bonuses and the equity. Changed my perspective immediately. He said, we only leverage the base pay, right? The base pay is what you're gonna get on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis, depending on when they issue checks. He said, we don't work for the base pay. The base pay is just to keep you coasting, right? That's the thing that's gonna pay your bills. That's the thing that's gonna make sure that the wife is happy. You got something coming in throughout the year. He said, we ain't grinding for that. The reason why we work so hard is because we got milestones to hit, and our contracts are incentive laden for us to do the thing that's in the best interest of the company. And so what we get is we get stock options, we get equity into the company. That's where the money comes in. And because their pay is tied to the performance of the company, because the Boeing CEO's pay could be much greater. 32.8 million is actually low for what he could make if they were performing even better. And so what they do is they basically tie your compensation to the performance of the company, and they don't even let you sell your shares until after a certain period of time so that you don't temporarily boost up the finances of the company or the performance of the company in order for you to benefit financially, right? And also, what that does is it allows for the executives to forego the tax implications that come with being successful in the company. So I'll give you an example, right? And then we're going to deep dive into this. I'll give you an example. Take Bill Gates or Elon Musk or any executive, Tim Cook, right? The reason why Bill Gates is so rich right now is because he's still a huge investor. Steve Ballmer, they're still huge investors in Microsoft, but what they basically awarded themselves is stock options. When you look at Elon Musk's pay and he got this 50 something billion-dollar pay package, right? It's equity into the company. It's a percentage of the company, a percentage of the stock options. And so what that does is it prevents them from having to pay upfront like you guys paying your regular paycheck. And what they do is they borrow against the equity that they have in the company in order to mitigate the tax implications that come along with taking out or paying themselves out of the stock options. So they basically leveraging assets to get cheap money to prevent themselves from paying taxes and to buy the stuff that they really want. Are we going too deep? Are we going too deep? Because we could just talk about surface level stuff. We could just talk about all U.S. Senate grilled, and we're going to get to that. But are we going too deep? Let me say it again for the people in the back from a C student's perspective. The reason why you take equity into the company, especially for a company that you believe in, and I'm assuming that you wouldn't work for a company that you didn't believe in, right? Because your reputation is on the line. They award you equity. That equity is not taxed because you're not actually getting any realized gains from it until you sell the equity. Elon Musk didn't have to pay a huge tax bill until he had to sell portions of what his equity was in Tesla a couple years back. And then he had the biggest tax bill in the United States of America history. He didn't have to pay taxes until he sold. So they let that money continue to vest. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer or whatever, they have huge stakes. And so when we evaluate these people, we evaluate them based off of their net worth, not how much cash that they have. The only reason why it makes sense for them to borrow, and we say, well, rich people use credit. No, they use it differently than you. They leverage their assets so they don't have to pay the huge tax bill, but because the borrowers or the banks know that they have these huge assets, they're somewhat protected from, making a bad loan or lending it out like you would lend out like a consumer, right? And so what they do is they leverage their assets to then borrow money, which is cheaper than them paying taxes because they can pay a very low interest rate because it's guaranteed against what their equity is in that company. And so they leverage that to buy the homes, to buy the assets, because then you don't have to pay the taxes. And that's why I say that the rich play a completely different game than the people that's dependent on their pay in order to be able to exist and survive. Why I'm so heavy on my bag chasers to make sure you eliminate the debt, because when you eliminate the debt, it then opens up a world of possibilities for you to negotiate your pay packages differently. It eliminates the world of possibilities of what your tax implications are because you don't have to take the money in order to pay for your lifestyle. You then can start to make a completely different conversation based off of adjusted gross income. And it's a whole nother ball game, right? Because now I don't have to pay taxes so that I can buy the things that I need to survive. I'm leveraging my money in order to invest in assets that then I can use in order to support my lifestyle. And so when you listen and he say, "Oh, well, my pay compensation is 32.8 million," he's not he's not going to break that down for y'all so y'all can understand how his pay package came about, right? His pay package is all encompassing, all inclusive. It's an entire compensation package that includes bonus equity, base pay, which they base pay only be like $300,000-400,000 a year sometimes. Sometimes it even be less than that, depending on how they negotiate it. And so they're playing a completely different game than you're playing because you're a consumer and you are leveraging your paycheck in order to maintain a lifestyle to see how much you can make. And they're leveraging their assets. But the first thing that they had to do was invest in themselves to be able to generate enough revenue to get rid of the debt so that they can make an adjustment on how it is that they leverage their money in order to continue to make more money. And this is why it's going to be a bigger gap between the rich and the poor. I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent. Let's get into him.
So just help me understand that. I mean, do you get paid for transparency? Is that one of the metrics for your income?
I think the board counts on me for transparency.
Really? Because you're under investigation for falsifying 787 inspection records. The Boeing's under criminal investigation for the Alaska Airlines flight. You were investigated by DOJ for criminal conspiracy to defraud the FAA. This is all in your tenure. This doesn't sound like a lot of transparency to me. What about safety? Is that a component of your salary?
It sure is, Senator.
You know, have you seen the reports that the subcontractor that you used to make that door piece that fell out of the sky, that when the FAA went and toured the facility, they found one door seal being lubricated with Dawn liquid dish soap and cleaned with a wet cheesecloth, and another was being checked with a hotel room key card? Does that sound like safety to you?
Senator, I think our relationship with that particular supplier has been well documented, reviewed by the FAA, and most.
So basically, what he's saying is, listen, even though we are the owner of the company that ultimately buy the parts from Spirit Aerosystems, and he don't want to say what the name of the company is because it'll probably affect the purchase price. But Spirit Aerosystems is a supplier to Boeing that was spent off that they're trying to buy back. And then they can say, well, we're going to fix the quality problems because we have more control of what happens inside of that warehouse. But Spirit Aerosystems is really the company that's under investigation. But Boeing is the name that bought the name of the plane company, right? They're the ones that's buying it that, you know, is under duress. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy it in order to bring everything in-house and then control what the supplier system is.
Certainly us. And I'm very intent on acquiring that company so that none of that ever happens.
You know, the FAA also says that Boeing still has not implemented the recommended steps back from 2019 and 2020 after the MAX crashes. You still have not taken the appropriate
Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat.
safety procedures or implemented what they recommended. I mean, how, if safety is a component of your $33 million compensation package, I mean, how can you possibly qualify for any of this? What about quality? Is quality part of your compensation package?
Senator,
Quality can't be a part of your compensation package. It has to be a part of, I don't know how you can incentivize quality unless you compare it against years past, but.
I meet with the FAA pretty regularly. They don't hold anything back, and I'm not aware of
Shout out to
anything
Faber.
that has been cited with respect to those accidents that we haven't taken action on.
Really? Because we've had whistleblowers. You said you'd listen to whistleblower testimony. We've had multiple whistleblowers come before this committee and allege that Boeing is cutting every possible corner on quality and safety, not just in.
It's not whistleblowers from Boeing. It's whistleblowers from Aerosystems. From Spirit Aerosystems. That's where the whistleblowers are, all right?
The past, but now. They've alleged that you've eliminated safety inspections, that there are fewer in quality and there are fewer inspectors doing quality inspections out there. They've alleged that when they raised quality issues and concerns, they were reassigned, they were retaliated against, they were physically threatened. That doesn't sound like attention to quality to me. And yet you're getting paid $33 million a year. It's extraordinary.
Senator, we have
There's no right answer in this, and so he just got to try to, and it ain't no way that you can avoid not testifying before the Senate, but we'll see what he says.
increased our quality inspectors significantly.
How much has your stock price increased while you've been at Boeing?
Yeah, this is a marketing opportunity for Josh, the senator that's grilling him, Josh Hawley. This is a marketing opportunity. This is him trying to continue to make a name for himself because he knows the answer to the questions that he's asking. And so he continues to switch over from subject to subject in order to try to make him look bad. There's nothing that the Boeing CEO can do about this.
It hasn't, and I don't watch it much.
Have you done any stock buybacks while you've been at Boeing?
Not in my job, no.
How about your profits? Have your profits increased at all while
I
you've
haven't had any profits, sir.
I'm sorry?
I have not had any profits.
Yeah. You know, I think the truth is, Mr. Calhoun, you're not focused on safety. You're not focused on quality. You're not focused on transparency. All of this is in the record. But I think actually you're focused on exactly what you were hired to do, which is that you're cutting corners. You are eliminating safety procedures. You are sticking it to your employees. you are cutting back jobs because you're trying to squeeze every piece of profit you can out of this country. This company. You're strip mining it. You're strip mining Boeing. It was one of the greatest American companies ever. It has employed thousands of people in my state. And you are strip mining it for profit, shareholder value, and you're being rewarded for it. You got a huge raise, a huge increase. So it's working out great for you. For the American people, they're in danger. For your workers, they're in peril. For your whistleblowers, they literally fear for their lives, but you're getting compensated like never before. Don't you think maybe your priorities are misplaced here? I mean, don't you think maybe it's time to get back to focusing on making quality planes and paying your workers well and taking care of the little guys who got you to where you are? That's not a...
This is all posturing, obviously. 100% posturing. 1000%. Listen, I think that Boeing obviously needs to do a better job. That goes without saying. Whistleblowers, ditto. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that the whistleblowers being threatened or what's going on is, it should go without being mentioned. But what company in the world wouldn't want good quality? But then he throws in all of these other caveats, and I just got to be objective, and I'm gonna call it straight down the line exactly how I see it. He throws in all of these caveats. Don't you want to take care of the little guy? You know, the people that got you here, this American workers, these in my state or whatever. Man, listen, man, get the hell out of here, bro. This is all capitalism at the end of the day. It's trying to have the highest quality with the lowest cost to reward shareholder value, and that's how everybody get paid. That's what it comes back down to. That's what it comes down to. Now, the whistleblower, that's a whole nother issue. But when it comes to, listen, if you really want to hold people accountable, then we also need to start holding our legislators accountable, because this is not just on the company, right? We want to open up. Y'all really want to deep dive into this? Because we can. If we want to start holding people accountable, then we also need to hold our legislators accountable for opening up the ability for us to be able to source out or outsource jobs for profit in the first place during the first Bush and the Clinton administration, that ultimately led to a lot of these companies spinning off and then having suppliers, because it was cheaper to outsource the work and then outsource the parts and then say that it was assembled, not made, assembled here in the United States of America. That Trump then in 2016 started incentivizing companies to bring profits back, and then renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement, and then started throwing tariffs on China on parts that's being supplied. So our companies was incentivized to do that by our federal government and by our legislators, who were basically selling out our American workers and our real systems for profit in order to get more votes, in order to temporarily boost up the American economy. That's what really happened. Because all of these people played a part in it. It wasn't just the companies that was saying, listen, well, we want to get the highest profit possible. It's also our legislators that were being lobbied for, these very ones that's over here agreeing. It was our legislators that were lobbying for some of the laws to be passed that ultimately allowed for them to be able to make as many profits as possible. Listen, bro, these senators, these Congress members, they don't get super rich just by working on behalf of the people. They don't even get in these positions by working on behalf of the people. See, and this is why I think that this stuff is disingenuous. We can all look at it on a surface level and say, yeah, Josh Hawley is absolutely grilling this guy and he's doing a phenomenal job and all of this stuff. But in reality, what's really happening is that they are all a part of the same capitalistic system that incentivizes the company to do this so that they can keep their position, so that the lobbyists can have their jobs over in Washington. And I think that this is all posturing. This is all BS. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not the responsibility of the companies to do what's in the best interest of the people and the safety of the people that fly on their planes. 100%. But I'm also not going to ignore all of this extra posturing and marketing in order to throw him under the bus, because you are in a position of power where you can't be held accountable for some of the things that some of the things that your legislators and your friends that's inside of Congress and the Senate did before you. I'm just not going for it, bro.
Rhetorical question.
Senator, I don't recognize any of the Boeing you described.
Really?
And I want to assure...
You don't recognize the Boeing that has airplanes falling out of the sky, that has had 2 Maxes crash, that has had pieces of doors fall out of the sky, that have had whistleblowers come before? They've sat right where you have sat and told us, these are your employees who have told us that when these are
wasn't his
engineers, by the way.
employees.
Are you an engineer?
I'm not, sir.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And they have said that they're not listened to, that they're retaliated against, that they're threatened. That's the reality of Boeing today. That's your company that you have created. Now, I don't recognize it either from the company it used to be decades ago, but under your leadership, that's what Boeing is, and you're being rewarded for it handsomely. Handsomely. Don't you think there's something wrong with that? Why haven't you
Senator,
resigned?
Senator, I stand by what I said, and I want to assure the great employees in your state that that is not the way we operate the company, and it never will be. And if you would like my chief engineer to talk about what he sees and
No,
hears,
I want to hear from you, because what I hear from you is a lot of this team does that and that team does that, and I listen to the whistleblowers, but I don't meet with them. And I've heard about all this stuff that you Congress have meddlesomely asked for because the public wants to see it. Gosh darn them, but you actually haven't supervised any of it. I've heard that. It's a lot of it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. But meanwhile, you're getting paid a heck of a lot of money. It's unbelievable. If anybody's coming out of this deal good, it's you. Why haven't you resigned?
Senator, I'm sticking this through. I'm proud of having taken the job. I'm proud of our
this
safety record, and I am
You're proud of this safety record
of our Boeing people.
You're proud of this safety record.
I am proud of every action we have taken.
Every action.
Sounds like he needs to donate more to Josh Hawley's campaign so that he's not grilled as much as he's being grilled by the U.S. Senate. He's not even letting him answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow. There's some news for you. Well, behind you can't see it. Behind you, the folks are showing pictures of the people who are the victims of your safety record. I think we can all see them. And I think the American public, when they fear to get on their airplanes, they understand your safety record.
So again, I think that this is all political posturing. I do think that Boeing has to be held accountable for the product that they're putting out to the people. But then at the same time, I think that this senator is disingenuous, and it actually makes me like him less because I know that he's using this in order to promote this agenda.